My own personal definition of leadership is the overarching skills and the overarching structure that allows a group of uncommon people to complete common tasks. And if you want to dig into that from a military standpoint, you take people from Dallas, Texas, from Chicago, Illinois, from Cheyenne, Wyoming, you throw them in boot camp together, and somehow at the end, they all kind of look, smell, and talk like one another. How that works, who knows, but it does. If you want to look at it from a business standpoint, you take people with multiple backgrounds and multiple interests, and you put them on a project together, and at the end of the project, there's mission accomplishment, whether it be because you sold something, you created something, you marketed something, so on and so forth. If you want to look at it from just a general processes standpoint, you take human capital, you take equipment, and you take standard operating procedures, you mesh them together, and you somehow get a better utilization or an increased standard or higher efficiency.
Welcome to the Nicholas Brown Podcast, a podcast talk show about real estate investing, business leadership, and personal development. Each week, we explore current real-life case studies about how to build financial independence through investing in real estate to build your personal portfolio through passive income models, along with interviews from the top business leaders and personal development leaders. Now, here's your host, Nicholas Brown.
Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. I have another great episode. Matter of fact, I got one of my Marine Corps brothers. I'm so excited for him and what he's doing. And my brother, man, I'm just giving you a shout out. We improvised in this one here. We had it set for another date, but as we do, we improvise and overcome. We make things happen. So simplify, do or die. Say that. I'm just excited for my brother. We're going to get this done. And it's a great show. But before I begin, make sure you guys subscribe to the YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to your podcast, whatever podcast, whether it's iTunes or whatever. It's going to be a great show. Great show, I promise you. So, and it's about leadership and personal development based on the question. So here we go. And we begin. Today's guest is Matthew Askren. Matthew has worked in leadership roles with some of the largest food manufacturers in the world. Matthew has led groups within the baking, candy, and meat categories and has a demonstrated history of streamlining processes and building the relationships that are required to establish sustainable progress. He is currently the president and general manager for XLNT Bakeries LLC, Lucies Hoopie Pies. Shout out to LinkedIn. If you go to his LinkedIn, you'll see those posts, I promise you. So he's making it happen. He holds multiple quality and food safety certifications through the American Institute of Baking, a SQF certification through SQFI, and multiple Lean Six Sigma certifications through ProSource. He has been published over 30 times on the topic of leadership by Chicago Now, a network subsidiary of the Chicago Tribune. Prior to his time in the private sector, Matthew spent 7 years in the United States Marine Corps, including 2 tours in Afghanistan. His awards included Bronze Star Medal, Army Commendation Medal, Navy and Marine Corps Achievement Medal, and Combat Action Ribbon. Matthew also spent time as a communications instructor and martial arts instructor before receiving his honorable discharge. That's awesome. Matthew graduated summa cum laude from Hampton University. His undergraduate degree was in systems organization and management. Matthew also received his MBA from Jackson State University. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show, man. Golly. Before he begin, I love to tell a story, man. I mean, this is just motivating. And that's why I keep stressing on these podcasts. Go to LinkedIn for like-minded, man. And this inspired me, Matthew. Whether you're a leatherneck or whatever, man, inspired me your accomplishments and your journeys. So this podcast It's normally, as I say, ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening or watching, it normally takes 20, 25 minutes. But by rereading his accomplishments and his journeys where he's going, I got more questions to ask him because it's about personal development and leadership. And man, I got to get you for another episode. I see now because we may just get deep here about life and the journey of overcoming your ups and downs. Am I correct? You've had some ups and downs, correct?
Without question. Hey, and for you, we could do 2, we could do 3, we could do 4. Whatever you need,
please.
Whatever you need, I'm here for you.
That's
like
awesome.
You said, semper fi, do or die.
That's right.
Do it.
Thank you. Well, I say welcome to the show, and what we're gonna do is, what do you go by? I'm still gonna treat you the same. You're my brother, but what do you go by? Okay, Matthew, my brother Matthew. So
hey, anything short of a 4-letter word, and we're all good.
Okay, we're gonna veer from that.
I lost my feelings sometime about 20 years ago, so we're good.
Okay, yeah, okay. Keep your bearings, as we say. Okay, we'll go from there. On this show here, we deal with 3 things, Matthew. We deal with motivation, what inspire you to move. So motivation, teaching, and perspective. But this is going to be a little bit both, because we want to talk about leadership. You're a natural leader. We're going to talk about personal development, because I believe that ties into that. You're developing yourself, personal developing. So we're going to talk about, not go back too far, but I want to talk about what motivates you to go to the Marines, because I see you got a great history. Thank you for your service, sir. Thank you. I see that.
Likewise, thank you as well.
Sure, no problem with me. So what motivates you to go to the service, to represent the United States, whether you're a Marine? We're Marines, but I say there's a price for freedom. I don't care if you thank you, Army, Navy, Air Force, Coast Guard. We thank you, because there's a price for freedom. At the time of this recording, you'll see the example of what's happening over the world, where you have different types of leadership and what's going. So there's a price for freedom. You see now. And do you agree?
Wholeheartedly.
Okay.
Somebody's got to write that check. Somebody's got to sign it.
That's right.
You and I, we signed it.
That's right. But me personally, it was natural, because this is my home in the United States, but there's a price for freedom. There's a price to do for that. So I appreciate your service. But what got you to go to the service, or the service period? I know you got the Marines. We're first to go, last to know. We on top. Now I can talk mine now. But what got you to go to the service?
Hey, well, so I grew up the son of a Vietnam veteran. I grew up the grandson of a World War II veteran.
Wow.
The great grandson of a World War I veteran.
Really?
So that has always been a possibility. That has always been a part of the equation, based on when I was born and things like that. You look at September 11th.
Yeah.
That happened while I was in high school. And that had an indelible impact, I think, on all of us. But I mean, at that age, if you already were considering possible military service, September 11th, and then what soon followed with both wars that went on, it was a natural progression for me.
Sure.
But as for why the Marines, I think that was your original question. It was about
military period. But
military period was about the call to service, the patriotism.
Yes.
What had happened on our land, why the Marines specifically was about the challenge. And then, once you get into something, you got to get in all the way, knee deep, right? So you can't dip the toe in the water. You got to dive head first. We can use whatever cliche fits at the moment. So that was my mentality, and I look back on it now. In my case, we're talking about almost 20 years ago. I think if I did the math, I closer to 18 or 19, but who's counting?
Give or take.
And so, making that decision proved to be a catalyst for many big things in my life, because what it allowed was for me to fully understand leadership and management. And that is something that I've been able to take forward with me. Because I often tell people that who I am and how I am was formed by my parents. But with that said, where I honed my leadership and management style was with the United States Marine Corps. So then there's a common theme there, right? My parents were very faithful, both to their family, to their country, and obviously to God. And in the core, we often talk about God, core, country, right?
That's
Or
right.
God, it probably should be God, country, core, but we mess it up a little bit. But so there is a thread that runs through both of those that allowed me to kind of have a linear path, and that linear path was to leadership, to management, and to relationships. I still am in very close contact with many of the people that I serve with. I often don't go more than 2 or 3 weeks without seeing in person somebody that I serve with.
Really? That's awesome, man. That's strong.
And some of that has to do with geography. Like I'm not, that's a real component to things. I currently live in North Carolina, where there happens to be, a gajillion veterans. You're in Texas, there's a gajillion veterans. So if you're somewhere where there's just not a lot of those, then obviously, that may not be the case. But I would tell you that probably every about 2 to 3 weeks, I'm seeing somebody that I served with.
That is awesome.
I'm seeing them in a social setting. I'm seeing them in a professional setting because I do business with some of them. Okay. I'm seeing them in a get right way because we've got to make sure that mentally and emotionally we get it right.
Right.
And that's where having a community, a tribe, some might even call it, of folks that you serve with, folks that get you, is beneficial. And again, that comes back to a leadership and a management style that is based in relationships.
Right. Okay. So when you deal with leadership, management, and relationships, I wrote those 3. Is that correct? Leadership.
I think they all play off of one another.
Right. They tie in together. So let me ask you this. During that time, let's go straight to the source. That's going to lead to this a little bit deeper. When I read your about section, Matthew, which I met you, like I said, ladies and gentlemen, we have our own going. We support each other, but he's very supportive. We like each other's page and articles on there, but we got like-minded, which I appreciate you doing that. I love to put it in the air. I acknowledge everything, you know what I'm saying? So I appreciate you for that. I'm gonna get straight to the question. So based on your experience and everything, what's your definition of leadership?
My own personal definition of leadership is the overarching skills and the overarching structure that allows a group of uncommon people to complete common tasks.
Okay.
And if you want to dig into that from a military standpoint, you take people from Dallas, Texas, from Chicago, Illinois, from Cheyenne, Wyoming, you throw them in boot camp together, and somehow at the end, they all kind of look, smell, and talk like one another. How that works, who knows? But it does. If you want to look at it from a business standpoint, you take people with multiple backgrounds and multiple interests, and you put them on a project together. And at the end of the project, there's mission accomplishment, whether it be because you sold something, you created something, you marketed something, so on and so forth. If you want to look at it from just a general processes standpoint, you take human capital, you take equipment, and you take standard operating procedures, you mesh them together, and you somehow get a better utilization or an increased standard or higher efficiency. So when we can parse this whatever way you want, bro.
No, I want to take it this way. I want to make it general. I want to take it on a personal development as a leadership, being you have 20 years where you followed someone because they magnetized you to lead, to become such as that leader. Because different methods, as we say in the previous podcast, you evolve different, you understand different. So how is leadership, your methods, has it changed 20 years ago, or do you have the same tactics, or has it changed? What's your perspective? What's your way? What's your thought on that?
I think you have to have some core principles or some core values.
Okay.
And those don't change. In the Marine Corps, it's honor, courage, commitment. But I mean, obviously there's different ones as you go into, 3 in my own personal life are faith, family, and fitness, right? I mean, you can have whatever core values, but those don't change.
Okay.
Now, what you implement from there, I feel like in this world that we live in, you have to be willing to adapt. You have to be willing to do something different. When I was running a meat plant, I had to have a little bit different perspective than right now where I'm running a startup business.
Sure.
When I was working in the baking industry and we were doing just-in-time product that was literally being packaged and put on a truck 6 minutes later, sometimes you had to have a different perspective and different tactics than you had, in that meat plant. So there are different modes that you have to kick in, but I feel like the overarching core values have to remain the same. And that's why I like to do campaigns. When I ran the plant 1 year, our campaign as a team was speak in specifics, because we had recognized that we had really smart people, we had really experienced people. But do you know why things fell apart? Because we talked about everything in a general way.
Okay.
For whatever reason, we didn't want to break down. Okay, so we ran better today than we did yesterday. What percentage better did we run today than yesterday?
What do you mean by camp? Let the listeners know. What do you mean by campaign? So we had certain projects for a certain time, 2 to 3 weeks.
We would pick out. Oftentimes it would be for a calendar year, because in that world you work for a financial plan that has either a fiscal or a calendar year. You have a goal that you're trying to hit, that you're trying to achieve. So a lot of times I would have a campaign that would go from start to finish for a timeline. And then within that, we would say, all right, this is an area that if we're going to succeed and meet this goal, which is competitive and not easy, if we're going to meet this goal, we have to get better at X. And an example would be speak in specifics. And that was based off observation of people. That was based off observation of past performance. And what we started to see was, when we got a little uncomfortable in a safe environment and said, no, we ran better, but we only ran better by 0.03%. That's not good.
Okay.
The goal is that we're going to run better by 3%. 0.03% is better than yesterday, but it's not the goal. How are we going to close that gap? When we started to get uncomfortable and we started to get to a place where we felt like we could communicate to one another, and that nobody was going to make personal attacks, and that nobody was going to hold it over people. We were going to keep it professional, but we were going to speak in specifics. All of a sudden, we were moving onto a trajectory that nobody saw coming.
Okay. So you had a certain culture, a certain everybody mindset, we got to progress to meet our mission. If at a certain point in time, if you don't agree, that's understood, but we got to move on. We got to complete
next year, once that worked,
campaign.
The campaign was from good to great, because we had gotten speak in specifics down. It worked great for us, or worked good for us. If we were gonna hit the next year's mission, we had to go from good to great. So again, a lot of that has to do with relationships, though, because you got to know your people, you got to understand your processes, you got to know your capabilities. But relationships play a huge part in that. Personal development plays a huge part in that. There's just so many factors, Nick.
Right. What's your values? What do you tie in? Do you go with the value? That's what my beliefs are. What's the value? If it doesn't make it at that time, we understand we can still be level, but we got to move on to meet our goal, the campaign, but have some type of thick skin. That's what my thing is, change and evolve. Some people at times are a little bit too touchy on the mindset, but that's another subject. That's another person's subject.
There's a time and place for rigidity, but I don't believe that it's in the tactics portion. I believe that it's in the strategy. Your strategy can be, your overarching strategy can be rigid because you have a core philosophy that is who you are. But in terms of anybody who's worked with large numbers of people know that when you get down on an individual basis, that you've got to find ways to connect with folks, and you can't do that with a one-size-fits-all approach.
That's right. Exactly. You got to be flexible-minded, not break, but flexible. Am I right? Can be flexible. But the overall goal, the mission is, how can we move forward, and what does it take to get there? So that's awesome. So tell me at this time about your company. I read on your company. What are you doing now? Because that's why it led to the question. Leadership skills have changed. They either evolved or you got to adjust. Would you explain that earlier? So what do you have going now? What type of position, what role that you have now, the role?
Hey, I'm blessed to be the president and general manager at XLNT Bakeries. We are a consumer products dessert company.
Okay.
We've got 10 SKUs or 10 items, you could
Okay.
say. We've got customers as big as Target, and we've got as small customers as mom and pop convenience stores that pull from some of our distributors. We stopped counting how many states we were in, but when we did stop, we were at 30 or 31. So
Okay.
I think
Wow.
we're probably getting close to 40, but like I said, we that stopped being as important to us, and now we're trying to really grow within the areas that we are. We're happy to be really kind of gaining some steam in grab and go sections within convenience stores, within super targets, in the refrigerated case of the bakery section. And we're even developing some new products that you might one day see when you turn on your TV. I'll leave it at
Really?
that. I'll leave it at that for
Stay
now.
tuned.
But
Okay.
we are constantly trying to improve and constantly trying to better serve and satisfy our distributors and our retailers. Lucy's Hoopie Pies is our initial product.
Is that the startup? Because I read on
So the
the
XLNT Bakeries is the startup company. The initial products were Lucy's Hoopie Pies, which is three
Okay.
different flavors. It's sold out of the refrigerated case at your super target, or it's sold out of your open air cooler at your convenience store.
Okay.
We also have 6 SKUs that are shelf stable, which means that they can be bought right off the shelf. We've got customers for those like Travel Centers of America, like Cal's in Texas. So those are growing. Douglas Companies is one of our distributors for that out of Arkansas. We just had a trade show last week on that. So lots of good coming, but we've had to change and pivot because we had a pandemic. I've had to change and I've had to pivot because, hey, when you're running a meat plant for the largest pork producer in the world, you're going to have a different success strategy than you are when you're running a startup. My goal when I ran a meat plant was to physically do as little as possible.
Okay.
Because you've got to delegate. You've got
Right.
really smart people who know what they're doing and who've been doing it for a long time.
Right.
They need guidance. They need communication. They need expectations. What they don't need is for me to try and do their job.
Okay.
And now in a startup world, of course, you've got to wear about 17 different hats, and you've got to be willing to wear 2 of them or 3 of them at one time if the situation calls for it. So that flexibility that you talked about earlier, if it didn't exist, there's no way that I could be pushing forward in a startup setting, because I would be so stuck on how we did things working for a $15 billion a year company.
Wow.
I wouldn't be willing to put in the necessary formula to succeed in a startup setting.
Man, you made me lose my thought. I had about 2 or 3 questions I had to write about that. But so at this time, let me ask this, because I got to ask, ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching or listening in, I got to ask, are you public, or do you need other type of investors? Because we deal with investing, business leaders, and, personal development, this type of show that I deal with. So I'm going to put it out in the atmosphere. Are you public, or do you look for other investors?
So neither. We're
Neither.
not public.
Okay.
We're not public, nor are we looking for investors. We are funded by a family office based out of Winston-Salem called Southern Spear, which is tied to a bigger investor. I'll just leave it at that.
Sure.
But so we are essentially single source funded, and we've got a great relationship with Southern Spear, and so that component for us has already happened. We've already gotten our funding. Now it's just a matter of execution. That's where I can.
5 minutes or less. Gotta ask this. You gotta come back on for another episode.
Happy
I
to.
got so many questions for you, but I'm gonna respect your time, Leatherneck. What methods of leadership? How's leadership changed for you, and what works for you best at this time? What methods work for you? Because you done had different types of ways to adjust. What works for you now? What do you suggest?
Well, some things never change. Setting the example and leading from the front never change.
Setting an example and leading from the front. Never
Don't
change.
ask anybody to do anything that you would not be willing to do
Yes.
or you haven't done.
Repeat that. I'll
that
be
doesn't
quiet.
mean, and people
Don't ask
confuse
what.
that.
I'm gonna be quiet because that hit a point. Don't ask what. Can you repeat that, sir?
Sure. Don't ask anybody to do anything for you that you wouldn't do or have not done.
Man.
That doesn't mean that people confuse that. People think that means that you should be walking around and doing everybody's job for them. That's not what it means. It means that if you ask them to do something that is either demeaning, that is physically a safety hazard, that is, putting the business ahead of their family in a way that you wouldn't do, that's what it means. Sure. When I am dealing with the sanitation department in a big plant and I'm talking to them about doing a toilet, I better have done a toilet before somewhere.
Sure.
I better be able to reflect on that to them so that they know that I'm not asking them to do something that I wouldn't do or haven't done.
Okay.
But again, I say that also being a huge proponent for delegation, especially in a large operation.
Right. You have to.
There is a line there that we all have to understand. But leading from the front never goes out of style. If you've got a uniform standard, you better meet the uniform standard.
Right.
If you've got a punctuality standard, you better lead the punctuality standard. There's just a lot that goes into that, and most of it is the little things. But you know what? Those little things add up because people don't necessarily remember the little things on a case-by-case basis, but as a collective, those little things make a large impact. And when you walk out of a room, people remember that you might have had the uniform standard, but you followed it. You may have had a punctuality standard, but you led that. You may have had a campaign about speaking specifics, but you never talked in specifics. How does that work, right? You talk about from good to great, but yet you don't supply people with the reading material to understand about the book From Good to Great.
Exactly.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
How do you lead from the front? How do you set the example or set the standard yourself? And that, once you figure that out, it's a lot easier to have a group of people follow behind you, specifically a large group of people follow behind you, because it will make an impact that a lot of us don't understand until after we leave.
Inspired. They get inspired. They want to do is a pull, not a push. You're not pushing. But we always have this mindset. We got to move forward. My mindset, we got to move forward. We do what it takes, but nothing out of the, as you said before, extreme, that's going to harm you. But the mindset should be move forward, do what it takes to meet that campaign that we are as a whole. Because my saying is be responsible as an individual, but work as a team. So I got to trust you for that position, sir, if you're going to meet our mission. Even if we got to adjust and move back and forward, our overall thought as a team is to move forward to meet our goal in the campaign. Am I correct?
Yeah, you're spot on. You know it. You've been doing this for a long time. You know what you're talking about.
Sure, man. Yeah, we're gonna do another episode, but I'm about to let you go. So, any last words, or how can they get in contact? Or what you shout out? The floor is yours, sir.
Well, hey, first and foremost, look in your open air coolers at your convenience stores and at your super targets. Not to be confused with regular Target, super Target only. But look in your refrigerated cases in the bakery there. Grab lucies hoopie pies. You'll love them. It's all about the cream. 2 moist cakes, proprietary dairy-based cream in the middle, like nothing you ever had before. If you happen to be in an area that has our shelf-stable products, those are also under the Lucies banner. Grab them.
Can you order them online?
You can through Target.
Okay.
So if you go to the Target website,
Super Targets, and they can deliver. I'm thinking
it depends on your location, and
I got you.
It's a little bit convoluted, but if you go to the Target website, you look up Lucies, Lucie apostrophe S, hoopie pies, hoopie like a basketball hoop, HOOPIE pies. You'll be able to see where your availability is.
Okay.
But anywhere that's got Super Target, California, Texas, North Carolina, Florida, if they've got a Super Target, Atlanta, they got a Super Target, we're there for you.
one more
check
thing,
that.
because I got to network with you on the business side, since we deal with LinkedIn and we got LinkedIn listeners and all. What's your ideal client or business partner, or what's the ideal person that you look for to network with or build a business together, that they're tied in with Target or other locations that are tie in with your business?
So, and from a business perspective, we absolutely want to find distributors. So if you're a food distributor and you've got retail customers, let's do it. If you are a micro market distributor and you've got office canteens, hey, we're in that world too. If you're a food service distributor and you want a product that goes in a food service setting, restaurant type setting, we've got something for you as well. So reach out on that. Regarding LinkedIn, if you're a like-minded, successful based person, send me a connection request. I'm going to accept it. And let's find a way to put our minds together and generate some ideas. So on a business standpoint, if you're a food distributor, let's talk. If you're a food retailer and you have a distributor, let's talk. On a personal level for LinkedIn, if you are a like-minded, success-based person, send a connection request. I will accept. I'm
a living witness. Whether I'm ring or not, he will do it, ladies and gentlemen. So people work with people like-minded. Law of magnetism, law of attraction. He does that. So that's true. So thanks again, Matthew, for your time on here. Love, once again, like I said, come back on the show for another episode. I want to know how things has progressed, or just talk, because about personal development, talk about life. I want to get into that too, but we didn't get time. I'm sure we'll get another time for that. So thanks for coming.
There I go being long-winded again.
Say again now.
There I go being long-winded again.
No, there I go. But I respect your time because I know you got to get out. But ladies and gentlemen, we made a point. I'm going to make a point. I'm going to do for my brother. I'm going to get him on. I overlooked it, but here we are now, and he's always welcome to come back on. So thanks again, Matthew, for coming to the show. Okay.
Thank you, Simple Fidelis.
Simplify, do or die, always. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That's the show. That's that show. The episode is a great episode. I want to get you guys reviews on there. What you think? Send us a question. What you want for Matthew? What you want to ask Matthew the next time he comes on? And as we always end the show, don't condemn, don't complain, because you have a choice to make a change. Have a great day.
Thanks for joining us on the Nicholas Brown Podcast. Make sure to visit our website, www.nickbrowninc.com, where you can subscribe to the show in iTunes, Stitcher, or via RSS, so you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, if you found value in this show, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes. Or if you'd simply tell a friend about the show, that would help us out too. If you like this show and you are a new real estate investor, then check out one of Nicholas's free reports called the Wholesale Dominator Report, also located on our website, www.nickbrowninc.com/free reports. Be sure to tune in for our next episode. And remember, don't condemn, don't complain, because you have a choice to make a change. Have a great day.